Antifa being racist 3.
My name is Jose.
Communist.
I think Lenin is a great revolutionary influence.
Communist.
Odinez is Mexican, I am Puerto Rican. Nonetheless, we're two Hispanic Marines on duty that day during duty hours, and to be confronted by white folks not supposing that there is anything racially charged towards us until he asks us, are we Proud Boys? And then later on the crowd just calls us these racial slurs, and then later on calls us racial slurs for being a Hispanic heritage. The irony was just colossal.
This is absurd.
I'm a communist, motherfucker.
This is terrible.
Okay, yes, you're a communist.
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm a communist.
So the communists.
This is like absurd.
Communists.
A third Antifa has been arrested in that violent, racist hate crime against those two Hispanic men, and guess who it is? Recognize him as one of the Antifas that went to Tucker Carlson's house?
We know where you sleep at night.
You may recognize him also as one of the Antifas that chased Ted Cruz and his family out of that restaurant. Remember that?
Members of the group Smash Racism DC, Democratic Socialists, Anarchists, and some of the LGBTQ community chased Texas Senator Ted Cruz and his wife Heidi from the Fiola restaurant last night.
We believe survivors! We believe survivors! God bless you!
Let my wife through.
In a tweet, Smash Racism DC said in part, quote, "No, you can't eat in peace. Your politics are an attack on all of us."
He is also a friend of Maxine Takeout Trump Tonight Waters. You know, the congresswoman who told people to drive members of Trump's cabinet from stores and restaurants and so on.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
By the way, folks, this is the video version of a website that I made. This is the website on your screen right here. It has a lot more sources than I'll go over in this video, but they're all right there at your fingertips. Just click and there you go. For example, here are some more articles about Alcoff's arrest in this case. Here is a tweet showing Alcoff with Maxine Waters. You see he is with the AFR. Now, the Philadelphia reports, quote, "The Philadelphia's District Attorney's Office has charged 37-year-old Washington, D.C. resident Joseph Alcoff with aggravated assault, ethnic intimidation, and conspiracy, all felonies, among other charges. He has pleaded not guilty, and he is currently out on bail." I think mommy bailed him out. We'll get into that. By the way, if you don't know what ethnic intimidation is, you can go to my webpage and click on ethnic intimidation, showing you a definition of it. But I think we all get the idea of what that might mean. Speaking of being out on bail, he seems to be a rich mama's boy, as we'll get into in a future Womansplaining with Tabitha video. But what was this ethnic intimidation? In this case, it was gang stomping two people after those people identified themselves as Mexican and using racial slurs against these men while macing, punching, and kicking them while greatly outnumbering them and laughing about it. Here are some articles about Alcoff's arrest in this case right here. Alcoff has been called Washington, D.C.'s radical Antifa leader, Joseph Jose Alcoff, who's advocated for violence and for the overthrow of the government by the Daily Caller. He also goes by Jose Alcoff, Chepe, and Jose Martin. He is apparently a Rolling Stone magazine contributor,
Rolling Stones contributor Jose Martin,
a campaign manager for the AFR, that's the Americans for Financial Reform, and he is at SaboKitty on Twitter. Speaking of his Twitter, he seems to tweet a lot of hateful stuff like calls for murder and so on. He seems like a very poisoned, very toxic, very bitter, very, very unhappy, miserable little piece of shit. And apparently, like I mentioned earlier, he is a mama's boy, and his mama is a revolutionary too, apparently. See this tweet right here? What a good mother to raise such a loving boy. I mean, just look at these tweets and this behavior.
I'm a communist, motherfucker.
Oh, okay, yes, you're a communist.
Yeah, I'm a communist.
So the communists.
By the way, folks, see the aforementioned Womansplaining with Tabitha video for some more insight into this misdirected anger that can come from such a neutered boy, one held under the wing and not allowed to leave the nest. In that woman-splaining video, Tabitha will also go into the sort of basic sick codependent psychology of mother and son in this sort of pairing. Let's look at this tweet right here, because this genius says he doesn't label himself by his tactics, and he labels himself by his tactics. Slow clap for the mentally handicapped. And here's more about Alcoff. Again, you can access all these articles by going to the webpage version of this video that I created for you. Scroll down, see the link in the description for that. You may have seen our videos titled Who Does Antifa Actually Attack Number 9, Marine Corps Reservists, and Antifa Racist Hate Crime, White Antifas Using Racial Slurs Against Hispanic Americans. If not, see the link below, because again, I put links to everything in the webpage version of this video. If you've seen those videos, one or both, well, here is the third Antifa arrested in that case. And wouldn't you know it, he's not just some right-winger in disguise or anything like that. These are all three of these people that have been arrested for this crime have histories and are well known for their quote-unquote anti-fascist action. Alright folks, you don't have to watch my 2 videos about this, and if you absolutely refuse, fine, I'll give you a brief rundown anyway. The We the People rally took place on November 17th, 2018 in Philadelphia. It was, quote the Philadelphia, the news outlet, not the town, a rally for, quote, all patriots, militia, 3%ers, and Constitution-loving Americans, which of course Antifa calls fascist, white supremacist, Nazis, and blah blah blah. Here's video of the event. Now keep in mind that Philadelphia is not exactly the most credible source, as it, for example, refers to the Proud Boys as, quote, a men's-only organization whose members frequently attend violent white supremacist rallies, unquote. That is a patent lie, and you're lucky you don't get sued for that. From that biased description, we can dismiss any claims that the Philadelphia is a right-wing news source. Now, on that day, Antifa attacked a man who was not part of the rally after he identified himself as being Jewish, but failed to meet the demands of the mob to prove that he is Jewish. I suppose Antifa wanted to see something like the yellow stars that Jewish people were required to wear in the Third Reich or something like that. Where are your papers? Prove to us that you are a Jew. Disgusting. For more on that particular attack that day, see our video, which I suppose could have been an episode of Antifa being racist, but it's the 8th in the series, Who Does Antifa Actually Attack? As we reported in Who Does Antifa Actually Attack number 9, not at the rally but in the area, 2 Marine reservists were attacked by Antifa. Thanks to the great videographic reporting by Ford Fisher for News to Share, which I highly recommend, see the link below, the police were able to identify suspects. They apparently also robbed the men. On your screen is again the webpage version of this video, and you can see all these reports on it by clicking on these. Some might wonder if or argue that these 3 racists who were arrested in this case were misidentified as Antifa, or perhaps even right-wingers impersonating Antifa, you know, let's say Proud Boys dressing up as the Black Bloc to false flag and whatnot. Well, the articles I've provided here, even if their own claims are not accurate, provide abundant evidence that they are not just Antifa, but also that they have a well-known history and reputation with some authority, even if unofficial, in Antifa. One could call them well-known, quote-unquote, anti-fascist organizers in their respective cities, and they have all been charged with ethnic intimidation, in other words, racism, of gang stomping, robbing, and using racial slurs against 2, quote-unquote, people of color. This is Antifa. There is no getting around this. This is Antifa, engaging in what they would call a racist hate crime. They are exactly what they claim to oppose. They claim to be opposing hate and racism and other forms of marginalization and whatnot, and they do precisely that. They are exactly that which they accuse everyone else of being. And so, folks, we have yet another example of Antifa being racist, even by their own one-sided definition of racism, not to mention the endless collective cacophony of anti-white racism that they always engage in, usually in shrill shrieks, which is, after all, every bit as racist. I've included in that webpage version of this video the video by Tim Pool titled "Antifa Leader Arrested, Charged with Felonies, Fired from Job," because Tim Pool has had personal dealings with this guy and I want him to tell you himself. Remember that Alcoff is from Smash Racism DC. Guess who else is from Smash Racism DC? As Zero Hedge reports, quote, Smash Racism DC co-founder fired college professor Michael Isaacson made headlines tweeting about teaching, quote, future dead cops, unquote, and assassinating both President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence the day before they won the 2016 election, unquote. You may remember Michael Isaacson as Professor Giraffe or Professor Neck or Professor Giraffe Neck or whatever, and you may remember when he appeared on Tucker Carlson's show and on Kennedy's show. Notice that in this clip, among many other ludicrous and despicable things, he advocates for mob justice, mob injustice. Now let's see a little bit of what this hateful, deranged lunatic, this maniac, said on television.
So your position, tell me if I'm mischaracterizing this, is people you define as fascists do not have free speech rights.
No. My position is that communities have the right to defend themselves against groups that actively seek to eliminate members of that community.
Defend themselves against violence, or defend themselves
against violence? I mean, we were talking about...
No, but physical violence? So if I say, for example...
We're talking about a history, a group that has a history of enacting hate crimes. Yeah, no, we're not... Are we going to pretend like we're suddenly in this ahistorical world where Dylan Roof or Wade Michael Page doesn't exist, where Anders Breivik doesn't exist? Are you kidding me?
No. Are you really a professor, by the way?
What?
Are you really a professor, by the way?
What?
Lying douchebag double talker says what?
What?
So here's the question, though. Is it past statements that have espoused violence, or is it acts of violence?
It's
so
both.
could you?
Okay, but we're talking about.
Hold on. Let me just finish my question. Could you commit violence against me if you thought that I had a history of saying things that you imagined were violent?
I would never commit violence against you. I actually, when I was younger, I was a libertarian, and I actually looked up to you when you were a libertarian.
Okay, but let's take me out of this.
Okay.
Let's just, I want to know, like, the concept of self-defense is a legal concept, but it's also got, like, a long history and tradition in common law. So the idea is, if I'm hitting you, if I strike you physically, if I physically commit violence against you, you have a right to commit violence back in order to protect yourself or your property.
Sure.
But you're seeming to say that anybody who has espoused ideas that have at some point in history led to violence can be the subject of violence from you. You're not saying that.
No, I'm not saying that.
Liar. He is completely lying. Not only is, I mean, just listen to what he says after this. Not only is he in fact arguing for using violence against people who espouse views that at any point in history may have led to violence, he's literally arguing for attacking people he calls fascists, which means people who have never espoused views that have led to violence in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, he's talking about attacking people who have nothing to do with politics, who happen to be in the area, Jewish people, so-called people of color, LGBT people. He's talking about people who are not as far left and extreme and violent as he is and as his fellow Antifas are. Look, he's flat out lying. He's doing a little tap dance and a double talk that only the most stupid people in the world would not see through. Just listen to him.
What I'm saying is that I believe it is the right for communities to get together to assess what is a threat to them and to defend themselves against that threat.
Okay, let's hear that one more time.
What I'm saying is that I believe it is the right for communities to get together to assess what is a threat to them and to defend themselves against that threat.
So he's literally arguing for mob justice, quote-unquote justice. In other words, sociopathic injustice warriors in mobs attacking people that they deem to be whatever, you know, just not as far left as they are. Okay? That's what this scumbag is advocating for. This is a person who, you know, he's laughable, but he's dangerous because some people actually listen to his indoctrination when he teaches people in college. Fuck this guy, okay? Wouldn't it be great if somehow somebody enacted the same exact thing that he wants to do to other people using his own standards? In other words, he subjectively says that so-and-so is a fascist and therefore they deserve to be attacked. Wouldn't it be funny if somebody said, well, you seem like a fascist to me because you're calling for authoritarianism and collectivism and a new regime, and therefore, even by, you know, tighter restrictions upon the definition of fascism than what you people use, you are a fascist, and therefore you deserve to be throat punched or whatever. Wouldn't that be funny? I sure would laugh. By the way, what other sort of groups have in the past gotten together in mobs and decided so-and-so is guilty and their very existence is dangerous because of the things they believe in or the color of their skin? Oh, that's right, the KKK.
Well, I mean, for instance, I think that the framework here of talking about violence as opposed to talking about preserving the very freedoms that you and I both enjoy is a false one. I mean, ultimately, we're talking about a movement that actively advocates against all the fetters of democracy. I mean, we're talking about Richard Spencer, who publishes on altright.com, publishes an article on July 28th by a man named Vincent Law, where the headline was, "To protect free speech, get rid of democracy." We really have to...
You know what? Okay, so let's use that example. I disagree with that. I haven't seen the piece, but it doesn't sound like something I'd agree with.
It's not.
Does Richard Spencer have a right to speak in public?
Richard Spencer is a danger to society. When he speaks in public, what he is doing, he is publicly recruiting people to his very violent movement, very violent ideology.
So does he have a right to speak in public?
I don't think he has a right to speak in public unopposed, and that is ultimately what the purpose of Antifa is to show up and oppose him.
But it's not opposition. You shut people down, you prevent them from speaking, and you commit violence against them.
Absolutely.
I know a number of people, well, don't tell me it's untrue, I know people who have been knocked down and beaten by people from Antifa. So that is true. It does happen.
Tucker Carlson is 100% correct. As I've proven in some of my videos, my series, Who Does Antifa Actually Attack? Watch, by the way, Professor Giraffe Neck's face. Just watch his face when Tucker Carlson says, I can read his mind, he's kind of saying, oh God, I just wish he didn't just say that, damn it.
Don't tell me it's untrue. I know people who have been knocked down and beaten by people from Antifa. So that is true. It does happen.
Just watch his face.
That is true. It does happen. So that is true. It does happen. We have it on tape. We just roll the tape.
Right.
Gotcha, bitch.
Let's see that one more time.
We have it on tape. We just roll the tape.
Right.
Gotcha, bitch.
Right.
So you're saying, is that justified?
Yes.
Well, wait a second. Okay, notice Tucker Carlson says, you attack innocent people. We just played it on tape. Is that justified? And he replies, yes. Okay. Holy shit. Now, you can argue he didn't mean to say yes to attacking innocent people. Sure, he didn't mean to say that, but he did. He does mean it, but he didn't mean to admit it, okay?
So you're saying, is that justified?
Yes. I believe that communities have the right to defend themselves against threats to their community.
Against ideas they don't like.
No,
they have a right to commit
against
violence.
People who have explicitly said that they want to eliminate those people from our society.
You fucking scumbag. You fucking know that most of the people that Antifa attack are in no way far right. Many of them are not even right wing at all. They're just not far left anti-freedom people. And by the way, he's arguing, oh, it's pro-democracy and I like freedom. No, you're lying. You are a communist. You are against these things. You are against freedom. You are against liberalism. You say liberals get the bullet too. Fuck you, you fucking liar.
But you're conflating violence with ideas.
No,
if I have not raised my hand to strike you, you have no right to strike me.
But in order to raise your hand to strike me, you have to think that you're going to strike me.
Wait a minute, let's hear that again.
But in order to raise your hand to strike me, you have to think that you're going to strike me.
Oh, okay, so thoughts. He's into the thought police. Gee. Taking another thing straight out of Orwell's 1984. Holy shit. Holy shit. Wow. Holy shit. Should this man be allowed to show his face on the streets? Really? Should he be allowed to slink out of his basement? Okay, he's already been fired, but that's not enough. Okay? That's not enough. I'm not calling for violence against this man, but he should be shamed out of the public forever.
And when you are going out in public as a protester, explicitly saying that you want to eliminate most of the people from this country, I believe most of the people in this country have the right to say, no, that's not okay.
Oh, you mean like Antifa saying that they hate white people and they want to kill them all? Yeah, see, again, exactly that which they claim to be against, they are.
Okay, but you absolutely have a right to say it's not okay. What you don't have a right is to prevent me from saying what I think, even if you disagree, and you definitely don't have a right to commit violence against me. And you're blurring the lines there. And by the way, don't you work at a criminal?
Yes, I'm in a college department, yeah.
It's hilarious.
These people have no idea how fucking ridiculous, stupid, insane they seem to even the average person. To me, the average person's not very smart, but even the average person finds this to be hilarious.
Yes, I'm in a college department, yeah.
It's hilarious.
Like,
Okay,
this is something you have to
last question.
understand.
Do you teach students?
I do.
Not anymore, because he got fired, you fucking deranged lunatic.
Huh. And do you teach them that the First Amendment does not apply to people they disagree with?
I teach them to think critically.
Oh, he teaches them to think critically. Let's see a little bit of what he actually says in his classroom.
So when we get into throat punching, that's why. Sure. Throat punching is probably a good thing. I would say that's where you do the throat punching. I'm gonna be honest. Okay. No, I'm serious.
Okay, so punching people in the neck. Yeah, that's teaching people to think.
And that's why I'm very open about my anti-fascism and my anarchism.
So if someone in your class said, you know what, I'm a Trump voter, I'm against affirmative action.
I've had those, and I encourage them
to be punched in the neck.
I encourage them to research and explore and hold them to the exact same standards that I hold any other student.
No, you're lying. You encourage them to be punched in the neck. By the way, wouldn't it be funny if somebody did the same thing back to him? I mean, he's got a lot of neck to hit. You can't really miss that target.
Yeah, I bet.
I do.
Yeah,
I had an alt-right supporter actually in my class last semester. Yeah. I worked with him on his papers. He started off kind of bad at citation. I got him better at citation, and he wrote a paper that was an A paper.
Okay, now wait a minute. According to Antifa's own standards, because he was collaborating with alt-righters, he should be attacked by Antifa. Listen, if you are Antifa, okay, and you sincerely do believe that you have to fight against racists and people like that, then you should be going after Alcoff and this moron. Okay? If you don't actually believe what you claim to believe. You're a hypocrite like they are.
I mean, I am not discriminating against my students.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
except you think that people you disagree should be beaten up, but whatever. All right, Congressman. Close, Professor. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
All right, so here he is on TV with Kennedy, and you know what? I'm not going to go through this because this guy is just so disgusting. It makes me want to punch my computer screen, okay? I want to punch his fucking throat. But I'm not going to, okay? So shut the fuck up. But anyway, if you want to see this whole clip with him on Kennedy, scroll down, see the webpage version of this video, click on the link and watch the whole thing for yourself. If you can stomach it, just don't watch it on a full stomach, okay? And again, he is co-founder of Smash Racism DC, the same group that went to Tucker Carlson's house, by the way, the same group that harassed Ted Cruz and his wife at that restaurant, by the way, the same group that James Alcoff is from, the same man who was arrested and charged with ethnic intimidation, violent racism in action, okay? Wonderful, folks. Also, you may remember that he made a cameo appearance in this great video by the amazing Tiberius Maximus. I highly recommend his channel.
Bunch of crooked Nazi cops? I'll allow it.
Tiberius is awesome. Okay, so folks, let's pause and think here. Professor Giraffe here, he literally argued to millions of people on TV that mobs on the street, yes, he didn't use the word mob, but, okay, think, okay, that people on the street should get to decide who should or should not be attacked for their thoughts or what they claim their thoughts are. We all know that Antifa accuses many, if not most, innocent people of being Nazis and fascists and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we know that they falsely accuse innocent people. We know that they want to attack those innocent people in mobs on the street. Now, keep in mind, he's from the same group that James Alcoff is from, so his comrade was amongst a mob of people, not all of them Smash Racism DC, most of them from established anti-fascist groups, quote-unquote, there in Philadelphia, but he was amongst a mob of people, seemingly mostly white guys, gang-stomping two Hispanic men because they believed, or at least claimed to believe as an excuse, that they were Proud Boys. And they gang-stomped them using racial slurs against them. That's what we're dealing with. And you can't pretend that they're not Antifa because all three of these men have a long established history of what they call anti-fascist action. They are Antifa. Antifa is exactly that which they claim they are opposing. And at this point, you have to be a blind idiot or just plain fucking evil to deny this. The evidence is insurmountable, incontrovertible, plenty, abundant. Okay? So if you support Antifa, you are scum. You are reprehensible, unacceptable, vile, putrid, disgusting scum. And you are an inferior individual. In other words, you are not as good as the average person. Okay? You are less than the average human being. Because the average human being would not stoop to your level or do the things that you do. Fuck you. Fuck your violence. Fuck your sexism, fuck your racism, fuck all of your hate, fuck your double talk, fuck your stupidity, and just fuck your very existence. Alcoff proudly says the following about himself.
I'm a communist, motherfucker.
Oh, okay, yes, you're a communist.
Yeah, I'm a communist.
So the communists...
Why anyone would admit such a thing is beyond me. Here is Alcoff praising Lenin's quote-unquote great revolutionary influence.
I think Lenin is a great revolutionary influence.
Some people have a vague and, well, factually incorrect view that Lenin was somehow noble and not murderous like Stalin. Allow me to quote a bit from Lenin, Stalin, and Hitler, The Age of Social Catastrophe by Robert Galatly, if I'm saying that correctly. Quote, Lenin introduced Soviet communism complete with new secret police and concentration camps. He was responsible for suppressing all liberal freedoms. Okay, liberals, quote-unquote liberals. He was responsible for suppressing all liberal freedoms and for ridding the country of a constitutional assembly that might have led toward a democracy. In January 2018, it was he who demanded the assembly be shut down. Once in power, Lenin enthusiastically hunted down anyone who did not fit in or who opposed the new regime. And he introduced the Communist Party purges that periodically called forth nationwide witch hunts. Kind of like the mob justice that the other guy is in favor of. These people are despicable, insane, and evil. Anyway, continuing with the quote, whole classes came to be deemed superfluous, be they nobles, members of the bourgeoisie. A lot of cases that's code for Jews, in their minds anyway. I'm not saying that the bourgeoisie are Jews, but they thought that, especially Stalin, who was building concentration camps for the Jews when he died, and thankfully they didn't complete them, because the country kind of turned a little bit away from all that murderous stuff, just a little bit, after Stalin died. Anyway, whole classes deemed to be superfluous, be they nobles, members of the bourgeoisie, or quote-unquote rich peasants, holding up the terrorists of earlier European revolutions as their models. Lenin and his followers shed blood with such complete abandon that they made their heroes look restrained and hesitant by comparison, unquote. Okay? These are the kind of scumbags that politicians like Keith Ellison, for example, celebrate. Okay? The same kind of people that the left-wing aspects of the media celebrate, okay? You people are on the wrong side of history. Antifa are not good. They are the exact opposite of good, okay? And we're not going to forget who among you supports them now. In the future, we shall remember, and you will pay. Oh, he's calling for violence. No, I'm not saying that you're going to be paid with mob violence, because remember, I'm opposing mob violence when I oppose you. No, I'm talking about actual justice, okay? Whether it be your career being ended or you maybe being prosecuted. Not for what you say, but, you know, if we look into you, what is it that you do? All of you who support Antifa, if we find that you engage in violence illegitimately, then you're fucked, as you should be. And you do not deserve to have a job. You don't deserve to be able to pay rent. You're bad people. You're antisocial. You're cancer cells.